Welcome to another edition of the Tyler Werner Show, ladies and gentlemen. Coming off of Sunday Night Football, a must-win for the Philadelphia Eagles. And while it took until overtime to get this overtime win, but nevertheless, the Philadelphia Eagles getting the job done in overtime, 33-27, down in Dallas this past week. Continuing the trend in the Chip Kelly era for the third straight season, where the Eagles lose to the Cowboys at home, but going on the road to Dallas, they beat them. Third straight season that happens. But anyhow, getting to the game, the Eagles, coming off of a bye week, extra time to prepare. Just as we go through, I guess, feelings throughout the game. Unfortunately, it's one of these things. Look, I know that this is a great win for the Philadelphia Eagles. It keeps their season alive, essentially. With this win, they moved to 4-4, and they avoid moving to 3-6. Meanwhile, the Giants atop at 5-4 in the division. So this was obviously, in that regards, a huge game for the Philadelphia Eagles to win, to stay alive in the playoff race. Because, at the end of the day, even though I don't see this Eagles team having a deep playoff run in them at all, at the end of the day, I'd rather see them go to the playoffs than not. And, people could say what they want, about, like, oh, well, they're better off, not winning too much from here on. They're better off not making the playoff, and then they get a better draft pick and stuff like that. And, that's all fine. But, then that's more, the draft, you can find guys that you need. Like, it's not like the NBA draft where you have the Sixers. You only have, like, a few surefire guys, perhaps, in the entire draft that are really gonna improve your team. And the NBA, it's I think it's a different landscape as far as that goes. But when it comes to the NFL, when it comes to the Eagles, I'd much rather have playoffs than not, because you never, it's one of those things you never know. Such as when Seattle went 7-9 and nobody expected them to beat New Orleans Saints in the playoffs that one year, and the Seattle Seahawks ended up doing that. But anyhow, that's just me. I'd rather have playoffs than not, at the very least. And the Eagles keep their playoff hopes alive with this game. Now, obviously, heading into this game, it kind of came out like within 48 hours before the game. Kind of one of the big stories with the Cowboys leading this game. And before I even go any further, it prompts me to have a call out of the week. So let's do it.
It's time for Tyler Werner's call out of the week.
I just think somebody owes us an explanation, that's all.
What's the matter with you? Loser! You're a loser!
Are you kidding me?
Well, I have a microphone, and you don't.
So you will listen to every word I have to say!
And, it's kind of a double call out here in a sense, but it's Greg Hardy and it's Jerry Jones for, maybe not, I don't know, you have a PA problem when you have the kind of photos released by TMZ.com this past week. And that those photos come out and Greg Hardy's playing on Sunday Night Football. And I think we have a bit of a problem there, Jerry. But, that is what it is. But there were, in the pregame show and whatever, Chris Collinsworth and Al Michaels talking about the story and everything, the photos coming out, where Greg Hardy, battered and bruised, his girlfriend or if they're still the ex-girl, whatever it is. Obviously, absolute disgrace. They were, I guess, going through a couple tweets of Greg Hardy saying how he was like grateful to be playing and he regrets his actions and everything. And you know what I say that I say that's a bunch of crap, really.
You know what? Enough.
I say it's a bunch of crap. If you're sincerely, I don't know, if you sincerely regret your actions like that, to do something like that, in my opinion, you would have taken your suspension that you were given to. You would have maybe taken some time off, and you know what you'd be doing. If it were me deciding here, like if I don't know, if I was like a football god or what, if I had the power to do this, with because Greg Hardy got away with some appealing and cutting down the suspension and whatever else, and much to the chagrin of Mike Golick, of course.
Sit down.
Who wanted Greg Hardy to sit down for the 10 games, and which I agreed with. This was way back in April. But it's one of these things like, don't, spare me the phony tweets now that these photos came out on TMZ. Do you regret that? Do you really regret doing something like that? Because that it's not. People want to say it's a mistake. Like I've heard Cowboy fans on phone lines of Philadelphia sports radio shows, which Philadelphia sports radio show. I don't necessarily know why you're, other than to get a ruse out of, Philadelphia fan base and Philadelphia sports talk show hosts. I don't know why. Other than that, I don't know why you're calling a Philadelphia sports radio station in the Philadelphia sports territory. But it's one of those things. People, want to paint this out as a mistake, and it's like, you do something like that. It's not a mistake. You shouldn't be probably playing football for. You should be out probably speaking in public and like a world tour. Maybe not a world tour, but a USA tour, speaking in public about how disgraceful your actions were. That's the bottom line to me.
I agree.
So Greg Hardy, spare me the phony tweets. Whatever. The phony, I regret what I did. Do you really regret what you did, or are you just more... now that the photos came out on TMZ, now that the entire public can essentially see the results of what you did, beating up your girlfriend like that. The bottom line, you can't hit a woman in the first place, but to bruise her up head to toe. Now, tell me that's not insane. And that's probably not someone that should be playing in the NFL at the moment. Just tell me. Tell me I'm wrong. I don't know. And Jerry Jones, whether he desperately wants to salvage the season and felt Greg Hardy was a big part of that, I don't know. And there was one play too early in the game, as I guess we'll start actually talking about the football game here. There was a play early in the game, like a dirty push and unnecessary roughness or something that Greg Hardy got, and it's like, they show these tweets before, I regret my actions and this and that, and then shortly into the game, there's an unnecessary put. And you know what? That tells me enough about Greg Hardy's character and whatnot. There's dirty players in the NFL, obviously, but unless you're, it only makes you look worse when after supposedly throwing those tweets out recently. And then, the thing is, I don't even use Twitter. I'm just going by, the fact that they show them here on the pregame show. And then it's like right off the bat, Greg Hardy's getting a cheap penalty and just unnecessary stuff. It's just, it's just a disgrace. And yeah, if anybody's like a little hoarse today, I'm not under the weather, and it was actually I guess I sound a little more hoarse than normal, a little distorted. Actually, I was if anybody's wondering why, I was a few nights ago I was actually singing with a band, singing a little block of Led Zeppelin, actually. So, yeah, surely enough, this song was included in that from the fourth Led Zeppelin album, which I believe around this time was actually almost released. It would have been 44 years ago. I believe it was a few days ago, that anniversary. But anyhow, it's just I figured just a nice little segue, I guess, to rock and roll. The Eagles were able to do that on the ground this week for the most part, I think. And yeah, I guess it's some silly way to, I guess, just explain, why I'm a little hoarse and whatnot. But anyhow, in case I sound a little extra different or whatever, but my voice is cracking or whatever. But anyhow, we'll get on to the game now. I mean, it's like much of this. It's like, to me, there's like some of the same problems with this win. I mean, again, this was a must-win for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's the bottom line. I sat here there's no way they can lose this game, and quite frankly, in some regards, they were pretty close to losing this game. They were pretty close to letting Matt Castle, of all quarterbacks, beat this Philadelphia Eagles team. It almost looked like a star, to be frank with you. And, again, after last week where the Seahawks, they kind of struggled offensively, but they shut down. They held Matt Castle to under 100 yards and yada yada, and they bottled up the running game pretty well. So I gotta say, I mean, alright, the first half, it ended 7-7, so the first half I can't say too much, I can't harp too much about the defense. I mean, it was a disappointing start, and we'll just put it that way. It's another one of those things, too, where, again, it's like the Eagles, they come out, and they go 3 and out, and it's like much of the same. It's like, all right, what, and then they get the benefit of roughing the punter. The Cowboys rough the Eagles punter, Donnie Jones, and that was obviously beneficial for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think, it's not often we give credit to punters for, in-game plays, but when I saw that punt, I saw the replay, and I think Donnie Jones, he seemed to do a good job. I don't know if he purposely did, but it looked like he like purposely like punted the ball like more high up vertically in the air than I think he normally does there. If you look at the trajectory of the ball, it goes like more straight up in the air, and I don't know if like he purposely did that because he saw that there was a good chance that punt was going to get blocked, and I was shocked it didn't get blocked. So I don't know, like, it looked like maybe he purposely, which is a great thing, that he, like, I don't know if he knew it was coming and he tried to purposely angle it a little differently, but fortunately it wasn't blocked, and it was a roughing the punter penalty. So, New set of downs for the Philadelphia Eagles offense, and they go 3 and out again. And it's like, it's the same old Eagles. Particularly the same old Eagles offense in the first quarter, first half for the most part. It's like, all right, it's disappointing. And again, I said this last week. This is mostly on Chip Kelly. You have 2 weeks to prepare here. I mean, the players, they had time off, obviously, but Coach Chip Kelly, he said, he said it in his press conference last week. I wish we could, I wish we could keep training. I don't like the bye week. It gets us out of the rim or whatever. So, here's Mr. I wish we could keep training, we could keep working or whatever else. And it's like he doesn't have a plan, once again, to get off on the right foot. And there's only so many games you can get away with poor starts like that until you play a New England Patriots team who you might find yourself down 21-0 early in the first half before you know it, and it's something you're not going to come back from against the Dallas Cowboys team. But fortunately, it was 7-7 at the end of that first half, and for the most part, all was, I guess, okay and dandy for them. But again, that's not saying much. The Dallas Cowboys team that lost 5 straight heading into this game, that clearly without Tony Romo at this point, I mean, until he comes back, and even when he does come back, it's such an uphill climb for them, even in this division. I mean, they're 2-6 now. That's the bottom line. And the Eagles, there's no excuse for them to not win this game. And I mean, it's not a day for me to wave the Eagle pom-poms or anything, and which I really don't really do anyways. But it was a must-win for the Philadelphia Eagles. And quite frankly, again, just with the whole Greg Hardy thing and the Jerry Jones, and it's like justice was served a little bit, all right, with the Philadelphia Eagles beating the Cowboys. And, Cowboy fans say what you want. People say what you want about the rings, and this is a guy who's getting to play football right now who probably should really be out speaking and should be sitting out, saying how, I'm a great pass rusher and all that, but it is like a privilege to be able to play in the NFL. And meanwhile, in my personal life, I'm battering and bruising a girlfriend. But so, if you ask me, I mean, it's like justice was served.
We're from Philadelphia and we fight.
Thank you, Chip. But anyhow, that's kind of the mentality I have with this game. Now, the first half, I mean, it ends 7-7. It looks like the Eagles, they start to get the running game going a little bit, and which is a good sign. DeMarco Murray had he had a pretty solid day. I guess we'll put it that way. It took a little time to get him going, which, like I said before, I mean, that's the kind of it's like warming up a car engine a little bit. You get him going a little bit, little by little, and then he starts to break some big runs. 18 carries for 83 yards from DeMarco Murray and a touchdown. And certainly he helped out the receiving corps with 6 receptions, 78 yards. I mean, for all intents and purposes here, I mean, DeMarco Murray was, he was like a wide receiver and a running. He was wearing essentially 2 hats this game. Effective in the passing game. I mean, that one wheel route, I mean, it was a perfect throw by Sam Bradford, who, by the way, I didn't even mention Sam Bradford yet, but as we get through the breaking down the game here, but again, a lot of the success of this game, I think, for the Philadelphia Eagles, it was predicated on the run game, getting the running game going. Ryan Matthews, 11 carries for 67 yards, solid. I mean, on some of those outside runs that he does. I mean, those sweeps, and he just gets around the edge. I mean, good stuff. Whereas DeMarco Murray, typically, he's got to you open up that hole for him, and he gets through it, and all is well. Not to mention, again, Jason Peters was out this week. So they had Lane Johnson over on left tackle, and at one point it appeared that he had a freak injury for a moment, but he was all right. So more makeshift offensive line work here by the Philadelphia Eagles, and give them credit, without Jason Peters out there, and Lane Johnson stepping up to left tackle, kind of like some of his college days. I mean, they did a pretty good job here, this makeshift offensive line at this point. And I give them, I tip my cap to the Eagles offensive line. And, especially when you gotta, again, the whole Greg Hardy thing. I mean, nevertheless, he was playing in the game. And, Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth, like right before kickoff, they're kind of saying, like Chris Collinsworth said, like, we may do a little commentary and whatnot on it, and I think just the way that the tone they were calling the game, like I feel like I could tell, like, Collinsworth and Michaels, like, I think in the back of their, like, they were hoping that the Eagles would win this game. Not like they're biased or anything, because I believe it, they call it down the middle, and they're a great broadcasting team, I think. Some people are annoyed by Chris Collinsworth, but I think they were thinking the same thing. Like, the Eagles win this game, it's kind of like justice is served. But, so that's just me. But nevertheless, Greg Hardy, again, who last week I mistakenly called Jeff Hardy, professional wrestler.
And no, I wasn't watching wrestling.
Is known for jumping off of ladders and this and that, and getting some DWIs, I think, and stuff like that. I mistakenly called Greg Hardy Jeff Hardy last week, but anyhow, the Eagles' offensive line, they had to compensate for not having Jason Peters. They had to compensate for Greg Hardy, where he was going to line up. And I think, again, it was a slow start in the first half, as it always is. But the Eagles, they got it together. They started to get the running game going. And that was very important this game. DeMarco Murray, whether it was catching passes or whether it was running the football out of the backfield, out of the shotgun, which is not ideal, especially when it's like every single run play. It was good to get this running game going, and fortunately they did. And Sproles got a few carries in there, and he had a few solid runs, and just overall a good job. Good job by the offensive line, the makeshift offensive line, I guess playing a little bit above their heads. And just on the ground, a good job. Now, in turn, the Dallas Cowboys were having their way on the ground this game as well. And I got to say, I was a little disappointed with the Eagles' defense this game. I feel last couple weeks taking a bit of a step back, unfortunately. Now, Jordan Hicks, who had a pick six, the guy, third-round pick, the third-round rookie this year, filling the shoes of D'Amico Ryans at times, Michael Kendricks, Kiko Alonso, whoever. Jordan Hicks has stepped up. He makes another great play in this game, a pick six. He reads that out route at one, and he jumps the route, picks the ball. Matt Castle ain't cashing him. Jordan Hicks pick six to the house. Having a great season. Probably the play of the game, and that put the Eagles up 21-17 at that point. So good, you know.
That was awesome.
It was a great play by Jordan Hicks. And for the most part, again, you know, making plays, pretty solid season. Sam Brad, speaking of, well, maybe not solid seasons, bring up Sam Bradford, which I barely brought up a few moments ago. You know, he was against Carolina. He was against Carolina. He was maybe a small step in the right direction. Unfortunately, obviously, he had a lot of drop balls that game, which fortunately the Eagles, they did a better job of not dropping the ball this week. And I mean, maybe there was like one ball I think that was dropped all night that should have been caught, kind of deal. But anyhow, they got the job done. Jordan Matthews, big day. 9 receptions, over 130 yards for a touchdown. Well, I guess we'll get to that touchdown later, but the bottom line is the Eagles defense was a little disappointing this week. They big plays on the ground, too many big runs that they let up. They got some pressure on Matt Castle, and the Jordan Hicks pick six was great, obviously. But for instance, the one I believe was the Hail Mary, sort of a Hail Mary, that it was a jump ball essentially that tied the game right after the pick six for Jordan Hicks. And it's funny how, kind of has a nice rhyme to it. The Jordan Hicks pick six. Right after that, the Eagles were a bit of a letdown on defense after that drive. And just the fact that Matt Castle was able to put up, 3 touchdown passes on the Eagles. To me, that's like disappointing right there. That they let Matt Castle throw for 3 touchdowns. But anyhow, so there's that one play that was like a Hail Mary. And it's like, it wasn't like intentionally a Hail, but it's just the way things turned out. And Matt Castle just chucks the ball to the end zone. And there's like 2 or 3 Eagles defenders. There's plenty there. There's plenty of time where the ball is in the air for somebody in that situation to just see it and just go and knock it down. And I know, Des Bryant, he's obviously one of the best receivers in the league. Maybe he's fully healthy at this point, or close to fully healthy enough to, to still, want to game plan against him and account for him like he normally would on defense. And the Eagles defense there, whoever was there on the play, it's like they don't barge in there and just knock the ball down. They let Des Bryant have all this space and just let him easily catch the ball and haul it in for a touchdown. That should have never been. Not to mention, at this point in the game too, the Eagles, they were letting Cole Beasley, they were giving up big plays to him and a touchdown, and it just getting a little disappointed here. And it was one of those things, you got to start accounting for them. But nevertheless, that tied the game then. There was a point, obviously, where the Eagles, there were a few, go for it on fourth downs in this game. Now, on third down, I feel there's so many drives this season, and I don't know why, but on third down, and it's the reason that a lot of 3-and-outs happen. On third down, where the Eagles, they don't throw past the sticks. And then, what do you know? They get stopped short of the first down, even if they catch the ball. Or well short. Again, it goes back to against Carolina, the smoke screen on 3rd and long. And it's like, what are you thinking, Chip? But it's like some of those dumb play calls continue sometimes, and it's like sometimes it shoots the Eagles in the foot. But then on 4th down, they're able to go for it sometimes, and they're able to get it, fortunately. And the Eagles were able to do that a couple times in this game. And there was a tough point in the game, late in the game, obviously, as we get through into the fourth quarter and whatnot. There was a, of course, after, they needed to pound it in with DeMarco Murray on 4th and goal, and it was like a few inches maybe to get, but Murray was able to push himself in, and Ryan Matthews had a touchdown run, and there was another tough situation for the Philadelphia. There was a Caleb Sturgis 53-yard field goal attempt, and it's like, do they want to go for it? Do they want to try to get, is it one of those things, do they go for it, try to get a first down because it's maybe outside Sturgis's range? Well, no, they go for the points. 53-yard field goal for Caleb Sturgis, career long, I believe that would have been, because they said 52 was his career long. So fortunately, to some extent, Sturgis has been a little more solid in recent weeks as a kicker. Now, I never advocate. Obviously, I would have much rather the Eagles would have gone down that drive and get a touchdown. The goal is to not have to rely on field goal kickers. The goal is to, if you can, and if it makes sense enough, get a touchdown. Unless, obviously you're in a great field goal range and you can get a chip shot field goal. Then you take it, obviously, depending on the time situation. It's all common sense. But, tough call here. Caleb Sturgis knocks a 53-yarder through. And that put the Eagles up 27-24. So then we get to the last drive with the Dallas Cowboys. And on defense, again, the Eagles had a chance. I mean, they were backing them up a little bit. They were getting pressure on Castle, but they had a chance to kind of, essentially end the game there for the Dallas Cowboys. But they were able, they let the Cowboys get to midfield. And back-to-back penalties on Byron Maxwell didn't help, and then another one after that. Now, look, I know, people, there were controversies of the calls or whatever, but still, at the end of the day, they had a great chance to stop him even before it got to that point. The Eagles were shooting themselves in the foot a little bit, initiating maybe a little too much. I mean, that's the thing. You gotta, I guess, read with the officials how things are going with the game, how they call the game sometimes. But they're shooting themselves in the foot a little bit. And I guess what ended up happening, back-to-back penalties, and before you know it, the Cowboys get in field goal range. And the Cowboys, they were fiddling around a little bit with the clock and calling a timeout and whatnot. But nevertheless, they like a 42-yard field goal, and Bailey, who's been a very trusty field goal kicker, hits the left upright, but it goes through, and we were on to overtime.
Oh, man.
So, again, heading into this overtime, I'm thinking it really should not be coming down to this in the first place. The Eagles, they should have, it shouldn't be coming down to this. Unfortunately, it's kind of what this Eagles team does, I guess. But came down to overtime. Eagles win the coin toss, fortunately. Because, overtime I think is a little more fair than it used to be. Obviously, a field goal in the first drive in an overtime doesn't win it anymore, fortunately. So, but a touchdown does. So the Eagles, they're moving the ball a little, some good DeMarco Murray runs a hurdle run in there. I believe, he hurdles over a defender, gets a first down run, and they're off to the races a little bit here. Of course, DeMarco Murray in Dallas against, in his former home stadium, having an impressive day, and a key element to this overtime drive. Opening up the passing game a little bit. And as I hinted at earlier, Jordan Matthews, especially after last week, dropping the ball a few times that he really should have caught it, and just throughout the season, having a bit of a bust-out game here, responding to the criticisms. If you watch the post-game press conference, you heard Sam Bradford praise Jordan Matthews, saying how I've never seen a guy work so hard. I'm so proud, happy for Jordan Matthews and how hard he worked throughout the week and everything. And Sam Bradford, who was pretty sharp all game, delivers a nice pass to Jordan Matthews. Jordan Matthews, a bit of a stiff arm, makes a move here and there, gets around and into the end zone for the touchdown. Game over. Philadelphia Eagles win. Justice is served.
We're from Philadelphia and we fight.
And the Cowboys, who albeit lost 5 games in a row here, heading into this game without Tony Romo and many of them without Des Bryant. Cowboys are handed their 6th straight loss, and essentially, I got to think their season is, there's not much hope. Even when Tony Romo does come back, they still have their work cut out for him. I said, again, it wasn't a pretty win for the Philadelphia. The Eagles, defensively, they didn't come out as well as I thought they would against Matt Castle and against this running game. It's a great offensive line for the Cowboys, obviously, but still. The Eagles were able to get the job done and avoid perhaps what would have been a season ender of a loss had the Eagles lost this game. But you know what? Cowboys are the ones that maybe we can appropriately play this for. As far as their season goes. Fortunately, again, had the Eagles lost this game, I would have been Probably would have played this for him. But no, we can play for the Dallas Cowboys this week. And Jerry Jones and Greg Hardy, who probably shouldn't have been playing in the game in the first place, but Jerry Jones, not going to, again, I won't go back to that, I guess, that whole thing, that whole angle of the story, but Jerry Jones, he let Greg Hardy play, who he sees as a team leader, or whatever, but, alright, that's fine. They're 2-6 now, and they're pretty much dead in the water at this point. And that's the bottom line. And the Eagles, they win this game, but it's like some of the same like coming out flat offensively early on. Couldn't figure out over the bye week, unfortunately. Again, it's like that's on Chip. Wide receiving core. All right. Again, Jordan Matthews, game-winning touchdown. He came alive this game. Great game for Jordan Matthews. Kind of redeems himself a little bit. Kind of responds to some of the criticisms he's been getting, including from me. And including from anybody who's been watching him drop easy catches, or at least balls that got to be caught in this league in recent weeks throughout the season. They were, but otherwise a little thin. Again, that continues to be a bit of an issue. I mean, again, if you look at the box score, all right, Jordan Matthews had a great game, 9 receptions, 133. Murray had 6 receptions for 78. Ertz had 5 for 44. But then you go down the list. There are other receivers. Miles Austin, 1 catch for 27 yards. Huff, 2 catches for 10 yards. And it's like they have nobody in the receiving core otherwise. Huff is just starting to look like a bust at this point. And he dropped a ball that he really should have caught. It was like a bit of a screen pass early in the game, and when they were like inside like the 10, and like just stuff like that. I don't know. Not to mention, Riley Cooper has no receptions whatsoever this game. Now, in the first quarter, I believe it was, they showed him like heading back to the locker room or whatever. And I don't know, like, it's kind of sad that I'm saying this, but if you caught the one time I think that you could see Riley Cooper on camera, the only highlight, I guess, if you want to consider it a highlight, that Riley Cooper even had this game was that he got a major haircut.
Cut the freaking thing, will you?
They showed Riley Cooper heading back to the locker room. And that was probably the only time they even showed Riley Cooper the entire game, because he didn't catch anything this game, and which he normally, there's been a couple other games where he's been banged up or whatever, but or just where he just didn't catch the ball at all the entire game.
It's almost like a red herring in a way.
And suddenly they show Riley Cooper running back to the locker room with a couple trainers, and I'm like, wait a minute, like, he cut those long locks. I always thought that Riley Cooper, he looked a little bit like, with his long hair, he looked like Keanu Reeves. And if you look in the Like, especially like the Matrix. If you look now, Riley Cooper with his short haircut, I bet he even looks more like Keanu Reeves. But unfortunately, his play on the field doesn't really reflect any kind of Matrix-like ability, I guess you could say. As far as, like, you know, catching the ball or what. But anyhow, that's just another side note, I guess. But not that it's, you know, at the end. I mean, Jason Kelsey, he cut his hair recently. You know, some guys on the Eagles had some long hair, and Jason Peters, look at him on the sideline without his helmet on since he was banged up this week. You know, the back spasms, and he's kind of got I don't know, it's like a semi-buzz cut, and then, you know, braided hair, somewhat like cornrows or whatever else, but anyhow, that's pretty much that. The Eagles receiving core again. Jordan Matthews stepped up this game, unfortunately, but they're thin. That continues to be an issue. The running game, again, they got that going. Sam Bradford. I haven't had much to really say about him this game, which is fine because it's kind of a good thing. He didn't turn the ball over, which obviously we didn't have to talk about that. All game long, even though it took until overtime for him to even, you know, to throw even one touchdown pass, but all game long, Bradford was making some good throws. Probably his best game of the year. Nearly 300 yards. But, I mean, he was very accurate this game. Again, against Carolina, he was okay, I mean, he was solid, but clearly limited by the receiving core he has and makeshift offensive line or whatever. Limited by not being very mobile. But to Bradford's credit, he stepped up this game after the bye week, and he was as sharp as he's been all season. And, you know, throughout even the first half, you know, it was a pretty solid game here. Again, he wasn't putting up all kinds of touchdowns and fantasy numbers. I mean, he put up nearly 300 yards, but he didn't turn the ball over for the second straight week. And he made some good throws that counted. And sometimes he put the ball where it really needed to be, and it just wasn't caught or whatever. But a good day for Sam Bradford. Especially after that overtime throw to Jordan Matthews for the game-winning touchdown. And of course, it was Sam Bradford's birthday. So, you know, talk about a good way to cap off your the birthday of Sam Bradford. Turning 28 yesterday. So, again, I mean, as usual, continues to be some issues with this Eagles team. They got the win. I get, at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. But still, there are some issues on this team, some shortcomings, some limitations, and just some areas of where you question whether they have an identity or not, or even what their identity is. Not entirely sure. So I think that's a kind of a good point to kind of end on on this note. As they move forward, and they got they got a couple Florida teams to play, and then Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving. Hopefully they get, again, I think between Miami or Tampa Bay, they may lose one of those games. But nevertheless, it's imperative that they win 2 of the next 3, obviously. But certainly, it would obviously help if they could win, if they could go on a mini run here. Maybe put together 4 straight, but I don't know if I see that. They didn't show me enough against the Cowboys that they have improved. You know, I feel like they're kind of where they were. You know, what you saw against, Carolina, I don't feel like they've gotten better. Now they're missing a few key guys, I understand, but still. They're pretty thin at wide receiver, it feels. They had trouble stopping the run. Byron Maxwell was a little questionable. Nolan Carroll was a little questionable. They, Sam Bradford, he's put a couple, this was a very good game out of Bradford. Carolina was all right, but so Bradford's stepping in the right direction, but who's to say, he doesn't take another step back or something again next week? I don't know. I can't trust him enough yet, but stepped in the right direction. And again, the offensive line, a bit makeshift. Maybe Peters is back next week. Maybe that helps him out. I don't know. But, in the running game we got going, so. It wasn't pretty, but the Eagles, they got the job done. And nevertheless, kind of keeps their season alive in a sense. At the end of the day, I guess it's the most important thing as we move forward here. And yeah, I guess one last note. It's kind of unfortunate, as the whole Greg Hardy pictures came out and whatnot last week, but Donovan McNabb.
Number 5 will always love you.
Unfortunately, of course, this kind of came out of the summer when Donovan McNabb got his second DUI offense. It appears he's going to be serving now an 18-day jail sentence. Yep, our own Donovan McNabb, the Philadelphia Eagles, greatest quarterback in franchise history. And then, I don't know, it was 60 days of, probation or I don't know, something like that. But so, again, it's just one of those things. Don't drink and drive. Stay safe, obviously, and hopefully Donovan McNabb can, I guess. Hopefully he gets his situation under control, because, again, I hate to see anybody get a DUI, but I hate to see a former Philadelphia quarterback who's kind of well renowned. I mean, he's an Eagles Hall of Famer. I mean, we'll put it that way. I mean, yeah, he didn't get us to that Super Bowl ring, and it was a little disappointing, obviously, but at the end of the day, he's remembered fondly, and since having him, I mean, we really haven't had a true franchise quarterback that actually had some longevity here in Philadelphia. So again, hate to see anybody get a second DUI or just a DUI in general, but now he's got to serve a jail, a little bit of jail sentence, and hopefully McNabb can stay safe here and not get another DUI.
I'm embarrassed.
So, on that note, we'll shut it down. At least we don't have. At least right now we don't have somebody who on the Philadelphia Eagles who just had pictures that came out just a few short days ago of how they recently brutally battered and bruised a girlfriend. But that's just me. On that note, thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Tyler Werner Show. Eagles get the win, keep the season alive essentially, and they're on making a chance to maybe put together a few wins here perhaps and see where things go as we head through the month of November with the Philadelphia Eagles. And we're here talking about it as always on the Tyler Werner Show on the Facebook page and on the YouTube channel. So check those out as well. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
It's no big news flash that many people, you included, eat as a way to medicate themselves. You can choose to worry about it or not. You can choose to panic about your situation or not. It's clear what you must do in order to make important changes.
5 letters here. RELAX. Relax. We're going to be okay.
In order for you ever to effectively figure out and map how to get to where you want to go, you have to first know exactly where you are starting.
RELAX. Relax.
You have to be willing to change what you're doing. You can change your behavior.
What is it about good sex that makes me have to crap? Guess it's all that pumping. Pump and dump.
Pump and dump. Never stop the pumping. Always keep her satisfied. Pump and dump.
You really jarred something loose, Tiger.
Hi there, I'm Hank Hill. Well, I'd like to tell you what Strickland can do to meet your energy needs. You see, at Strickland, the customer comes first. It's kind of interesting. The word customer begins with CU. Well, we don't see you as just another sale, but as a member of our team. I thought you might enjoy 7.5 gallons of pure premium propane. Strickland Propane, the customer comes first.